Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer. Today we're going to review Into Black VR, a game released on the Steam Store August 27th, 2025 by developer The Binary Mail. It normally retails for $30. It's on a release sale 20% off, and I did receive a free Steam key through the Steam Creator Connect program to review this game, although I had already bought the game on MetaQuest standalone. Into Black is a looter shooter where you explore, mine, craft, and fight for survival in the dark depths of this solo or co-op VR action adventure. And it's difficult to play Into Black without seeing the obvious influence from Deep Rock Galactic. However, there are some big differences, the biggest one being that there's no fully destructible environment, and these are set maps. There are no procedurally generated maps. And lastly, and unfortunately, there are no dwarves. You can play solo or with up to 3 other people. There's different game modes as well. You can play the story campaign, or you can do objective runs such as resource runs. There's also a PvPvE mode called the Singularity, where you can face off against up to 11 other players in the online competitive mode. After beating the campaign, you do unlock a new game plus mode, and each mission has varying difficulties available from story to insane difficulty. Now, it took me 16 hours to beat the game, but I did several resource runs, and also I like to explore meticulously, and I was looting as much as possible. I would estimate it would take most people 10 to 12 hours to beat the game, or 16 to 20 hours if you're like me and you like to explore and loot everything. I did have fun playing Into Black VR, and I do recommend it, but I did run across some issues, especially the more that I played the game. So let's talk about Into Black VR, what I liked and what I didn't like. Into Black is running on the Unity engine. On my RTX 3080, I was getting a steady 90 frames per second. It was running so well that I kept pumping up the resolution scale. Into Black is improved for PC VR. Every handcrafted cave has been meticulously upgraded with enhanced geometry, water, new details, and richer textures for a deeper, more atmospheric world. Also dynamic real-time lighting and shadows. Now, I did run into some bugs, but none of them were major, but they did get annoying at times. The biggest issue was definitely enemy pathing. The bugs would get stuck behind terrain, they would spawn from under the ground, or they would get stuck behind walls, or even shoot behind walls. And this issue seemed to get worse the further you progressed into the game. I also ran into an issue with one of the puzzles where it tells you to hack by pressing A, but instead of doing that, my character jumped, and that messed up the puzzle and left me unable to complete it, although it was totally optional. Lastly, and this issue only happened twice, but I got stuck, unable to move for several seconds, but after a little wait I was able to move normally. You do have full locomotion available along with teleportation. Moves and snap turning are also available with degree of turn and speed of turn. You can play comfortably seated. There are several comfort options as well, and you can choose several cameras as well, from head-based to controller to adaptive to set. The VR interactions here are a mixed bag. There are some cool VR interactions. The grapple hook, which takes a long time to unlock, is a lot of fun. Using the pickaxe is also pretty immersive. It's similar to the axe in God of War, where you can throw it and recall it back. And you have 3 different weapons: the handgun, the shotgun, and the SMG. And they have different upgrades and different strengths and weaknesses. But unfortunately, a lot of the interactions in this game are button presses and just scrolling through menus. To use your equipment, you'll be pressing a button and then scrolling through a menu with lots of options. And it can get very unwieldy the more that you unlock. And for most items, you'll just grab them at a distance, but there are some fun ones where there's a twist to collecting the resource. For one, you'll be pulling the resource into this little green area where you have to hold it. And there's one where you'll toss them in the air, then you have to shoot them with your handgun to collect them. But a lot of it's just constant highlighting and grabbing at a distance, and those items just automatically get added to your inventory. So after a while, that can get pretty mind-numbing. There are different elements of gameplay. There's your combat, and this is just your standard first-person shooter. Although you can also throw some grenades, the gameplay here really doesn't adapt or evolve. Even with the upgrades to your weapons that you can do along the way, there just wasn't enough variety here, and enemies just basically run up towards you. And at first there is a nice variety of enemies, but about halfway through the game, new enemies just stop being introduced. And unfortunately, the same thing happens with the boss fights. The same boss fight unfortunately gets repeated 3 different times. There is lots of looting, obviously, and there's also lots of upgrades available. The problem is that you'll probably never have enough resources to do all the upgrades, and you're able to fully upgrade some items, but other items you're limited in the amount of points that you can upgrade the item. And it seemed like the really cool upgrades are the ones that you run across this problem. So yeah, if you want the grapple hook, you'll have to compromise other upgrades in your suit. And this also sets up a system where you can loot the unlocks, but then you can't actually use the unlocks because you don't have enough materials for them. And you'll end up having tons of resources that you just don't need, and then having to do extra runs to get the resources that you do need. Now, I do want to clarify that I was having a blast playing this game, but it's towards the latter part of the game where it starts to fizzle out due to these issues that I'm mentioning. The sound mix and design for this game was just okay for me. I did find the musical soundtrack to be pretty repetitive, and the spatial audio was really all over the place. Sometimes I could really pinpoint where enemies were, but then other times enemies just snuck up on me, never hearing them anywhere nearby. On the other hand, I think the voice actors did a great job in this game, and I was surprised by how good the story was in this game. I was not expecting that. I don't want to spoil the story, but I will say that the story hit upon some very interesting themes, and the jokes were absolutely funny. Most VR games that have companions that follow you along are pretty annoying, but they did it perfectly in this game. The game is hilarious, but there's also some very serious scientific themes that they hit upon, and the different caves are different enough that it keeps it interesting as you explore them, but the story definitely keeps you engaged, and there's just a ton of looting and shooting along the way. Now, I will say that I wasn't a big fan of the puzzles in this game. I found them too simple and also too repetitive, and I did like how some levels had zip lining or destructible walls that you could break through, but for whatever reason these were never reintroduced into latter parts of the game, which I thought was a missed opportunity. I do want to make it clear though that I absolutely did have fun playing this game, and I do highly recommend it. I think it's a great game, but I also think it kind of petered out towards the end. It doesn't help that you do have to kind of grind to get the cool upgrades. If I have to rate Into Black VR, I would give it a great 8 out of 10. The sad part is that this game could have absolutely been a 10 out of 10 with just some refinement. Don't repeat the same boss 3 times in the game. But despite my criticisms, this is a great game and I do highly recommend it. I think it's a must buy for VR. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. This has been my full review for Into Black VR. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the video.